Welcome back, America. We have America's governor with us. I think it's important the Saturday before election that we do have America's governor with us. Dear friend of mine, Ron DeSantis. Governor DeSantis, as you look at this election, have you ever seen somebody less qualified, less articulate, and with less experience to be a nominee by a major party to even run for president of the United States as Kamala Harris?
Well, Mark, when they airdropped her in, I told people, we who follow this, we knew she wasn't up to the job. We knew she was a vapid San Francisco leftist with a horrible record, but I cautioned people that the media would give her hundreds of millions of dollars worth of fawning press, and that she'd probably raise $1 billion and run ads to try to gaslight people into trying to convince them that she's something that she's not. Now, I think as she's had to give interviews, I think people have seen through this, and I think they realize that, one, she's way too liberal to be president of the United States. I mean, she was the most liberal senator when she was in the U.S. Senate. She was a San Francisco Democrat as both a district attorney and attorney general of California. And then even when she ran for president, she ran to the left of Bernie Sanders. But you also have the other issue of, could this be somebody that could be a leader, that could be commander-in-chief, that you'd have confidence in? And the answer to that is no. And I actually had a little dust-up with her recently over these hurricanes, because we had a major hurricane come through, Hurricane Helene, and in the state of Florida, we take these very seriously. We do all hands on deck. It's very taxing. People work very hard from me on down, but we respond. And then we had another one come. And so we're spinning up, getting ready for that. And then I start reading in the media, Harris is mad that the governor hasn't called her. And then she was asked about it, and she said, I was being selfish and irresponsible by not calling her. My job was to protect the lives of the people of Florida and to protect the property and to make sure we have a swift response, not to worry about catering to her and her political campaign. And I have dealt with storms in this administration. She has never once called. She's never offered any support. She's never come to Florida to help people. It was only because she was taking heat because of the Helene response that when Milton was brewing, she tried to inject herself in. But what that showed me is, yes, I disagree with her on the issues just as you do, but this is just not somebody that could be commander-in-chief.
You know, it's a very hateful and diabolical campaign she's running with the things that she's saying. You've been around a while. I've been around actually longer than you, I'm sorry to say. But that said, to introduce Nazis into this, to introduce Hitler into this, to call the American people garbage like Biden did, to call people who are getting together to rally behind Trump at Madison Square Garden neo-Nazis like 1939, this constant put down of the American people, tens of millions of Americans, many of whom have fought for this country, many of whom are doctors and nurses and so forth and so on. I mean, isn't this really a battle between the elitists in Washington, D.C., the Democrat Party, which has lost complete connection with the common man and woman in this country, and we the people?
Well, those Biden comments, it seems like it's almost a rite of passage for Democrat elites to denigrate people that disagree with him. I mean, President Obama said that people that disagreed with him were bitter clingers to their guns and religion. Hillary Clinton, of course, said that people supporting Donald Trump in 2016 were deplorables. And then more recently now, Joe Biden saying everybody is garbage. And he said that right at the same day Harris gives this speech on the Ellipse in Washington where she's trying to cast herself as a unifier. And then here comes old Joe blundering in and basically saying what they all believe. They believe if you dissent from their leftist agenda, that you are not worthy. They look down on you. They don't think that you should have a voice in the affairs of this country. And she is playing a dangerous game, Mark. You're right. When you're saying things like, it's not just an election where one candidate presents one vision, one presents another, but if their side doesn't win, then somehow democracy is going to end. She is sowing a lot of very dangerous things out there, and I think it's been a really bad campaign that she's run. I think she's gone very low, but I do think the American people have seen through it.
You're so right, Governor. I mean, there's been 2 assassination attempts on President Trump. God knows if there's going to be more. And despite all that, the Hitler phrase, the fascist phrase, all these other things about him and his supporters, and your point is very important, which is, God willing, Donald Trump will win. Well, how is their side going to respond? if they say he's Hitler and fascist and all his supporters are neo-Nazis. The Democrat Party has a history, despite their focus on January 6th, of enormous violence. Whether it goes back to the Civil War, post-Civil War, even up to these days, 2020. It is a very, very violent party with a violent ideology.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page.